I have vivid memories of being 8 years old on Christmas Day at my grandparents' house. And everyone in my family is there. All my cousins, all my aunts, all my uncles, grandma and grandpa, of course, everybody is there. We're all packed into my grandmother's living room, and all the kids are sitting on the floor with piles of presents all around us, just waiting to tear it open. We're sitting there in anticipation. We can hardly stand it when all of a sudden, it seems, out of nowhere, one of my cousins, I can't remember exactly which one, says this: "Rip the wrap." And then the rest of us, all of the cousins, start to chant those 3 words. Rip the wrap. Rip the wrap. It had Lord of the Flies vibes to it. And then sure enough, my grandmother looks down at us chanting, "Rip the wrap," and she gives the approving nod, and we all tear open all of these presents, and in less than 10 seconds, all of the wrap is ripped, the presents are open, and the floor is covered in awesome gifts. And there is joy on every child's face. There is laughter among the parents, and there is a spirit of absolute unity in the room. It is one of my best memories of Christmas with my family as a kid. What about you? What are your favorite family Christmas memories? I mean, it's a blessing, isn't it? When you're able to gather with the people who matter the most, who know you the best, whom you love the most, in one space, and share a moment together, make a memory together, laugh together. There is nothing better than that. It is an incredible blessing. And I pray, I hope that you and I, we get lots of those moments over the next few weeks. But if we're honest, we also have to admit that that blessing of family also carries with it some burdens. As with every gift that God gives in this side of eternity, in this broken world, every rose has a bit of thorns. For many, when they think of getting together with family, especially at the holidays, there is, of course, joy, but there's also a subtext of pain. There's hurt, there's baggage, there's brokenness. Getting together with family, especially at the holidays, can be fraught as much as it is joyful. There's the sibling who's not talking to your parents. There's the 2 aunts who can do nothing but bicker with each other. There's the mom who only knows how to speak in passive-aggressive language. I love how you don't feel the need to clean your house when company comes over. That's so freeing. Must be nice. Thanks, Mom. There's the empty chair where Dad used to sit. Or there's the empty house that you sit in because work has taken you 1,000 miles from family and you just can't get back up north this year. Family, especially at the holidays, is a blessing, but it also always carries with it at least a bit of baggage. Carries with it some heartache. What is some of that heartache for you? I bring that up because today, as we continue our Advent series, we remember that at Christmas and Advent, we not only look back upon the first arrival of Jesus, but we also look forward to his return. We not only look back on the fact that Jesus entered into our world as God in flesh, but in weakness to live, die, and rise for us, but that this very same Jesus promised before he ascended into heaven, post his resurrection, he promised that he would return. And when he returns, he would arrive not in weakness, but in glory, and he would establish a new heavens, a new earth, a new reality, call it a new home, if you will, a new home where all the things that are still bad, broken, awful, and evil right now are finally and fully fixed. And part of what he promises is that there will come a day when he returns where the baggage that comes with the blessing of family is erased. And time with family in eternity, post Christ's return, will be nothing but blessing. And we're called to look forward to that day when Jesus finally and completely fixes all that our family dynamic is fraught with. As we look at Isaiah's text today, I want to highlight 3 promises about that coming day of Jesus' return and the gift that these 3 promises are, especially to those of us who feel the sting and the burden that comes with the incredible blessing of family, especially at the holidays. Isaiah talks about 3 things. He talks about Jesus at his return will bring justice, he will bring reconciliation, and he will bring unity. Justice, reconciliation, and unity. Well, let's start with justice. Again, we're on Isaiah chapter 66. I encourage you to follow along if you can. Isaiah chapter 66, we're going to jump back to verse 15, which we didn't read earlier, but is very important. Isaiah writes this, "For behold, the Lord will come, he will come again, in fire," that sounds nice, "and his chariots like the whirlwind to render his anger in fury," oh boy, "and his rebuke with flames of fire." When Jesus returns, he will bring with him accountability. He will hold the whole world accountable, finally and completely, for all of its dysfunction, including you and me. And that's what we mean when we talk about justice being done at Jesus' return. And while that can seem like something that would be scary for us, just remember that the return of Jesus and the justice and accountability he brings, even though Isaiah says that he comes with anger and with fire, is ultimately good news for those who belong to Jesus. Because on that day of accountability, when Jesus shows up and he holds everyone accountable, for those who are already covered in the forgiveness of Jesus, we will be okay. Not only okay, we will stand there in celebration knowing that every sin is forgiven and that Jesus himself, when he came as a child and then grew into a man who lived, died, and rose for us, he already took justice upon his own flesh on the cross. That justice was already done for our sins and our mistakes in Jesus Christ. We're going to be okay on that day of accountability. But there will be that day. I liken it to this. I've told you before about how I grew up with 2 brothers, an older brother and a younger brother, and I was the meddlesome middle child. And as we were growing up, especially during the summers, we would terrorize my poor mother. The woman should be a saint just for what she had to endure from us 3 boys when she was home all day with us during the summers. And the one thing that we would hear from my mom that would stop us in our tracks and cause us to pour out apologies was this. We'd be giving her so many pains and problems, and she would say to us, "Just wait until your father gets home." Yeah. And what that meant is, at some point in that day, she had called my dad at work and told him how evil his 3 boys were. How poorly his 3 boys were treating his beloved bride, and that he needed to do something about it when he got home. And indeed, Dad would show up ready to call us out. I liken the return of Jesus to that. Jesus, when he comes back, he will come back as a very good, but also kind of mad dad. Very good, but kind of mad dad, who is seen and is aware of all the awful, all the evil that I've done, that you've done, that this world is guilty of, and he's ready to call the world out on it, for there to be justice done. He's not going to overlook it or ignore it or dismiss it or minimize it. He's going to say, awful things have happened, and some things got to give. Somebody's got to pay. That's what he's going to say. And that's good news for you and me because we're already covered in the payment that he gave to us on the cross. But there will be those who insist in that final day of standing on their own 2 feet, on their rationalizations and their explanations of their motivations and their good work, but it will not be good enough. And it will be a very scary day for them who say, I will stand on my own performance before Jesus and say, hold me accountable. And he will. Now, why is that good news for those who are feeling the sting of dysfunctional and broken families, which is all of us? It's good news because part of the sting of being in a broken and sinful family, which is the only kind of family that exists, Part of the sting comes from the fact that people in that family have hurt you, have sinned against you, sometimes horrifically. And oftentimes, there's no accountability for what's happened. What your uncle did to you, nobody knows, or nobody seems to care. Or the other adult who is supposed to care for you and protect you failed to do so, and no one's ever admitted it or apologized for it. You carry wounds, you carry trauma from being in a sinful and broken family. And at times you can wonder, does my pain matter? Does anybody know what's happened to me? Will anyone ever see and say anything about some of the terrible, awful things that have happened in this blessing, but also this burden of a family? And the truth is that, at the very least, at the very end, when Jesus returns, he will say to you, I see it. And I'm angry about it. And I won't let it go unpunished. I won't let it go dismissed or diminished. We're gonna deal with it. Jesus will validate your pain and your problems and your trauma that you have suffered at the hands of other people. He will not let it go unrecognized. And friends, that's love. When someone sees the harm that's happened to you and says, I will not stand for it, I will hold people accountable for it, that's them loving you. And Jesus will send that message to you, to the world. There will be accountability for the terrible things that have been done to us. Jesus sees, and he knows. And that's good news. Now, as you prepare to step into those spaces where people have hurt you and wronged you and maybe never apologized for it or even recognized for it or being held accountable for it this side of Jesus' return, I want to recognize that going over to grandma's house and that person's going to be there or that person's going to be there, or welcoming everyone into your home and that person's going to step across your threshold and be in your space, that can be anxiety-inducing. I encourage you, just as a little piece of pastoral advice, ahead of those gatherings, to pray. Pray for the posture of your heart. Before you enter into that space or welcome those people into your home, pray this: Lord, help me today to be more defined by the love you have for me in Jesus than by what this person did to me. Help me today, as I interact with this family, to hold more tightly to who I am in Jesus, loved, forgiven, saved, eternal, than what this person did to me or what this family failed to provide for me. And that little change in posture can change the dynamic. The second thing that Isaiah talks about is reconciliation. Let's look again at his prophecy. Now, in chapter 66, verse 18, he says, the time is coming to gather all nations and tongues, and they shall come and they shall see my glory. Isaiah goes on to name specific distant nations, foreign nations, even tribes and groups that we know to be explicit enemies of God's people, and he refers to them as brothers. The picture that Isaiah is painting is profound and clear. What he's saying is that when Christ returns, there will be a sweeping reconciliation. He will heal even the deepest of relational wounds. When we hear words like Isaiah's or words from like the book of Revelation that talk about every tribe and tongue coming together and there finally being peace and harmony, we tend to think of it in terms of politics or like on a national scale. We think of like Israel and Hamas. That'll be great when they finally get along. We think of red state versus blue state or conservative versus progressive ideologies. We think of peace among those groups. And certainly Isaiah and the scriptures have that in mind. That'll be part of it. But the scriptures also have in mind something that hits a little closer to home. It's talking about reconciliation in your own family. What are the broken relationships that are part of the story of your family? What are the dividing lines between people and relatives that persist to this day? What are the topics that you pray don't come up around grandma's table? Because if they do, it will highlight the disunity and the dysfunction that exists between people who should otherwise love each other. Maybe it's people who refuse to show up to any family gathering so long as one other person is there. Or it's the family member who's chosen to believe that your family is so toxic that they have to go completely no contact, doesn't talk to anybody anymore. Or it's the son-in-law or the daughter who's put you at arm's length and only ever gives you surface level responses, won't ever let you in, for some reason has just decided to shut you out and treat you like a stranger. What is it for you? And I know that at times it can feel as though those rifts and divides could never possibly be healed. It will never get better. And the sad truth is, this side of eternity, you might be right. Now, should you work for peace and reconciliation? Yes, you should, insofar as it depends on you. Work for peace and reconciliation, even in the most seemingly hopeless of circumstances. But know this, Jesus has promised a day when there will be, among those who share faith in Jesus, who are covered in his grace and mercy, which includes people in your family who you might be just seemingly irreparably at odds with, there will be a great healing, a great reconciliation and reunion on that day. In fact, here's how far Isaiah goes to make this point for us. Look at verse 23, look at verse 21. Even more shocking is this. Isaiah says, some of them also I will take for priests and for Levites. Isaiah talks about all these tribes and tongues coming together that used to be warring factions and see the world differently, and all of them are gathered together as part of God's people, bound together in praise for the Messiah who's returned. But he also says that some of these outsiders, some of these Gentiles, some of these non-Jews, he would not only bring into the fold, but he would make them priests and Levites. These outsiders and unclean people, he will not only bring them in, but he will raise them up. This would have been scandalous to Isaiah's first hearers. They would have been scandalized. You're not only going to bring in outsiders that we hate, that we don't get along with, but you're going to make them priests and Levites, give them positions of honor and authority. And Isaiah's point is this, that the Messiah's family, when he returns, will be one of radical reconciliation and inclusion. Which is good news for you as you think of that one person, that one relationship that is too far gone. At the very least, in the very end, Jesus will heal it. There will come a day when the wounds between the two of you are healed and the weapons are put down. In the meantime, as you think about stepping into those spaces where that need for reconciliation exists, I encourage you, again, as your pastor and friend, to deploy this tactic, and it begins with prayer. If you have one person in particular with whom you are at odds, with whom things are sideways and sad and broken, first, I encourage you as you step into that space, as you share space with them, to pray for them. Specifically, pray blessings for them. I'm glad if you just pray in general, but try to avoid the spiteful prayer. Lord, you know that my sister-in-law, Sarah, is the worst person that you've ever created. That she requires more grace than even Judas Iscariot. And that she is the most annoying person on the planet. Father, help her to see how terrible she is. Don't pray that, okay? How about you just pray blessings for her, even though you can't stand her? How about you just pray blessings for her? Lord, bless her. I pray today that as we gather as a family, this would be a really good day for her. Pray that. Watch how that changes your heart. And then also, make a commitment to yourself that as you step into that setting, as you interact with this person, you will do your best to stop the loop that plays in your head on repeat of all the terrible things that this person has done to you or said to you or the good things they've failed to do for you. You know how that record likes to play. You're interacting with this person, and all you can think of is, yeah, that one time you said that one thing. Gosh, you're the worst. Or that one time I needed this one thing, and you said no about this. I can't even look at you. Stop the loop. You have control over that. Stop the loop. And then, if you really want to go a step further, you can make a commitment to yourself that you're going to do one nice thing for this person while you share space together. It could just be a kind word, whatever you can muster. Like, hey, your sweater's not ugly. Whatever it takes. Just say one nice thing. Or a helping hand. When he or she happens to be standing in grandma's kitchen doing all the dishes, you can saddle up next to them and you can start to dry. You can help. And you are not in control of how they respond. They may give you a cold shoulder. They may have a snide comment. You're not in control of their response. You're only in control of being faithful to what God's called you to do, which is to try and offer some glimpse of reconciliation today that's going to come in fullness tomorrow. The third thing that Isaiah talks about is unity. Joyful unity, a spirit of deep connectedness and celebration. It's really hard to define the unity that the scriptures talk about, but like we know it when we feel it. It's those moments, we get glimpses of it this side of eternity, when we are gathered together with the people we love the most, bound together by something that's important to us, like say Christmas, and we are enjoying each other. And it's those moments where we're connected in heart and mind because we're all thinking this is as good as it gets. And there's nowhere else I'd rather be. Like if you've ever been to like a family wedding and one of your cousins is getting married and grandma's on the dance floor, everybody's excited, the kids are running around, your uncle's got his tie on his head, and it's just a great celebration. You're like, these are all my people, this is something we're all excited about, and we're making memories. These are the moments that I'm gonna wanna go back to when I'm on my deathbed, right? That joyful unity and deep celebration that you wanna bottle up and you wish could last forever. It's the moment when you're sitting on the floor opening presents with your kids and you catch your spouse's eye and you look at each other and you both know, like, this is it. This is as good as it gets right here. And you just wish you could pause it and let it last forever. Or where you're in the line at grandma's house for the buffet and you're standing next to your cousin who you grew up with and who used to be your best friend, and you're just reminiscing about the old days, and you're like, man, this is so good, and you can tell they agree. It's just those moments, right? We get glimpses of them and they're so fleeting. We have them and we're like, oh, this is good, and then it's gone. That's a bit of what the scriptures are talking about when Jesus returns, and there's going to be this joyful unity that knows no end. An eternity of celebration where you're surrounded by the people that matter most, bound together by this God that you worship and whom you love. And it doesn't have to be bottled up because it never goes away. Listen to what he says now in verse 23. From new moon to new moon, so month to month, and from Sabbath to Sabbath, week to week, all flesh shall come to worship before me, declares the Lord. Day after day, forever, we'll be united in heart and purpose, together with one voice in eternity, surrounded by the people we love, we'll say, there's no place I'd rather be, and you'll never have to leave that place. Joyful unity forever. Now, as you head into those family spaces this year where that joyful unity is at best glimpsed and fleeting, I encourage you to try and enter into those spaces in a way that makes those moments last and linger as long as possible. What if, as you prepare for that family gathering, you made a commitment to yourself that said, look, I'm gonna show up ready to be playful and present. By playful, I mean you show up with your guard down, ready to laugh easy and make memories. Be that uncle. Be that son. Be that cousin. Be that grandparent who's ready to just enjoy the moment. I'm ready to laugh easy and let go because these moments don't last forever. And then you make a choice to be present, When the moment is happening, put your phone down or keep it in your pocket. And choose instead to be present in that moment. It's really, really tempting to be like, man, these are the moments that we live for our whole life. What's the score of the game? Like, don't do it. I wonder what's happening with Michigan football. Oh no, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't let that ruin this. Be playful. Be present. Maximize those rare and fleeting moments of joyful unity that you want to bottle up that will be unending in eternity. When it comes to Christmas, we want to be home for the holidays, don't we? And we want to have our table full with food that we enjoy and people that we love. We want to experience that blessing. But very often, that blessing also carries with it a very real burden. It carries with it the burden brought on by death. There are people missing that you wish were there but can no longer be there. By dysfunction, there's rifts between people where there should be no rifts. And distance. Sometimes you just can't get there because work and life and other things won't allow it. This Christmas, when the sting and the burden of family seems to outweigh the blessing of it, I encourage you to pivot to these promises that are true for you in Jesus Christ. That at the very least, in the very end, there will come a day where God sets a table at the return of his Son, Jesus Christ, where he sets a table at the return of his Son, Jesus Christ. And there is a feast that truly satisfies. You are surrounded by all the people that matter most, bound together by the God who's forgiven it all. And you will enjoy it in full and without end. There is coming a day where there will be accountability for all the bad, reconciliation between everything that's broken, and there will be joyful celebration that never ends. May we look forward to that for tomorrow and try our best to glimpse it here and now, today. Amen.